Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Thursday, August 19th. I'm Khalil Cato with the details. Families from the red zone whose homes were damaged during the eruptions of the Lahar volcano and are prone to threats of lahars or mud flows will remain in shelters which will be merged. This is according to Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, Michelle Forbes, during a roundtable discussion on VC3 last evening. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves announced the all clear for persons from Rabaca to as far as Oya in the red zone to leave the shelters and return home by Monday, August 23rd.
In different communities, not just Sandy Bay alone, even some persons from Chateaubelair and Fitzhugh's house roofs may have been collapsed from the heavy ash. So they would remain in the shelters until we are going to merge the shelters later on. So as persons exit the shelters, when we're finished by the end of next week, those that remain will merge them in different shelters. The important thing for us is to ensure that we have most of the schools, if not all, empty by the end of September, so that we can continue the face-to-face schooling once all things are equal in terms of the current pandemic situation. So we would have persons who are in emergency shelters at the moment. If your home is damaged, you cannot return to your home, you indicate that to the shelter manager. That is communicated to us, and of course we have to verify it to ensure that the information that you're providing is accurate. We probably would have had the information before, and if we look back at our because the damage assessment has been completed by the Ministry of Transport and Works, and that report is already in. So we review those lists of persons who are indicating that they cannot return home to ensure that what they're communicated is correct.
The NEMO director said persons in shelters in Bayabu and at the West St. George Secondary School were expected to leave today, and outlined the support that persons would get from the Ministries of Housing and National Mobilization as they return to their homes in the red zones.
Once you're leaving to return, you contact us, and well, if you're in the shelter, it's easier for us to know, because then you get your what we call the exit package in terms of a food package for lasting 2 weeks. We encourage most persons would have been returning home to do their cleanup, and even though you're returning home and you need assistance, BRAGSA is committed, our decision on Monday's BRAGSA is committed to support some of the families who can actually do the cleaning up. We have some groups within the communities also where you can actually borrow a wheelbarrow, borrow some shovels, you're cleaning up and return. We have had other persons contact us. We tend to lend the groups so that you can lend it to families within the community, not one for, so we have groups that have borrowed equipment from us, and they're doing that in the community, and that support also is available through BRAGSA if you return home and it's really overwhelming. Nobody's going to come into your house and clean your house per se, but the surrounding yard, because it's important for BRAGSA to be there to support, because as you clean and put out your ash, they have to clean up they have to continue to clean up the street and clean up the public access.
Meanwhile, over 70 homes in Sandy Bay were identified where persons will not be able to reoccupy. So said the NEMO director, who outlined the areas in Sandy Bay that persons will not be able to go back to due to threats of lahars.
In London, there's some in I've seen some in the Pepper Village, in Carrow River. There's another, I will share with you another one of the rivers there. There's we have identified some in Noel also, Agrica in London, Agrica, that's in London River there. So those are some of the areas that people would not be able to return to. We have identified some in Noel River, who we consider high risk or in the impacted zone. And so yes, we have the Carrow River and the Cayo. So those are some of the general areas that we would find, and these are the rivers that get flooded all the time during heavy rainfall, and where we have the lahars coming down. And why it's important for them not to return, because people are still in some of the areas that have been heavily flooded. People are still there. People have returned.
A meeting was convened earlier this afternoon at the Sandy Bay Government School, where officials from the government and NEMO were expected to explain to residents who have already moved back to the community what is going to happen going forward in terms of housing resettlement. Forbes noted that the mapping of areas in Sandy Bay directly affected by the volcanic eruptions has been completed. However, Oya and Fancy will be finalized by next week.
What we have been doing, the Ministry of Housing, Physical Planning, Transport, Physical Planning have been doing a lot of mapping of the areas that have been impacted. And that is really critical going forward as persons are returning home now, to ensure that persons who were impacted in that whole riverbed in the various communities do not return in those areas. So along with Professor Robertson, the town planner and her team, they have been going out into the communities and doing the mapping of the impacted houses and those areas that have potential risk for further if we have a big event, an extreme event in terms of rainfall. So that we have been concentrating on that a lot, identifying those homes that really would need relocation. There are the aspects that are ongoing by various other sectors, the Ministry of Housing, the identification of the land, the clearing of the land for relocation of persons who may not be able to return. So quite a bit is happening.
Speaking further on the dangers of lahars, especially during the rainy season, Forbes cautioned persons who have already gone back to their communities in the red zone and those who will be going back to always be on their guard and avoid river valleys.
Sum it up nicely, and I think we have to understand that we have to live with these lahars going forward. They may last for quite a while. They may last, we don't know how long they will last, because a lot of material is in the mountains. So to come down, I flew over about a month or so ago via helicopter, and in some of the gullies we have 40 to 60 feet of material, mainly on the leeward side. But all of that material is going to make its way down at some point. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, depending on the type of rainfall we have over the next few rainy seasons. And it is something we now have to live with, but also we know about it and we need to really avoid or mitigate against it so that we will not be caught in the path of the lahars. We are seeing too many times when we have heavy rainfall now that vehicles are stuck in these rivers because the area becomes very soft. The silt is very soft, so when you think that you may drive over nice when it's dry, but when it's wet it's a total different ball game, because you're just sinking in and you may not be able to get out of it quickly because you can't really outrun the heavy flow of the mud flow coming down.
Lead scientist monitoring the La Soufrière volcano, Professor Richard Robertson, said that the appearance of the volcano has significantly changed due to the eruptions which started on April 9th. On the television that should be last evening, Professor Robertson explained the changed features, which he said are more impressive.
Now you don't really have a mountain in the middle of Soufrière. What you have is an open crater. You have a upside down shaped cone that goes down some ways beneath the pre-existing crater. And at the base of it, it has a number of, well, not so much, it doesn't really have it has a base that is filled in with sort of more sediment. And you have a number of areas where white steam plumes are coming from, 3 or 4, sometimes 5 areas. And that's the steaming that people see. It's coming from an open crater. Outside this open crater, and this open crater is taking up a part of the pre-existing crater that you had, which had a dome. So you can't see a dome. When you look down into it, you don't see a dome. You have an open hole. And along the sides of the hole, you have a flatter area. The crater floor is higher than it was before. And it looks like it's what geologists call a tough ring, a ring of loose material. And on one side of it, on the side that is, if you go up towards the Rabacas, towards the Georgetown side, on that side of it, just to the right of the crater, where you look into the crater, you have a lake.
Professor Robertson further noted that it will be very challenging and dangerous for persons to hike up to the volcano anytime soon because of the condition of the summit.
Places that you walk on to go to the crater, you have a lot of loose materials. It's very loose. And then to get to it, because of the fact that it's loose, when the rain have fallen into it, the rain has dug deep gullies into it, gullies that go down to, a foot or two. So to get to the crater rim, you kind of have to climb down and up these gullies. Some people who have gone up to the crater would have known about this place we call Table Rock, which is kind of the highest part on the left. If you go up the trail from the Georgetown side on the left, there's a high sort of mountainous area. Now this strip bare of the vegetation and of the rock rubble that was around it, and you see it as a bare mass of rock because it's an old lava flow. So the mountain is much changed from what it was before. And because of the conditions at the summit, it makes it an extremely difficult and perhaps, I would say, for some people who are not accustomed to hiking, certainly dangerous climb to get to it and to certainly get around it, which is one of the reasons that, getting to the crater summit now is, people going there is not necessarily such a good idea.
The lead monitoring scientist also gave an update on the seismic activity at the volcano, noting that more steaming is expected as it rains.
Saturday, there was a lot of steam, and one day, a couple of sequences of steam generated a plume that was quite impressive for most people, and they got concerned. So that's the first thing. The volcano is slowly degassing, hot rock is there. The other thing that's going to happen, that's continuing to happen, is that because it produced a lot of loose fragmented material, because of all the explosions, all the material that came out has broken up into pieces, that's now resting there at the summit. Whenever rain falls, again, the same rain, it's going to mobilize, it's going to move that material. It's going to push it down slope, it's going to push it down into the valleys, into the rivers. It's going to get mixed with the water, it's going to come down as thick, swollen river. At the very least, it's going to be dilute and very strong, moving fast. You're going to have flash flooding, you're going to have damage to lower areas by these things that we call lahars or mud flows. So soufre is continuing to generate mud flows or lahars, and it's continuing to have hot material at the surface, and therefore you continue to have steaming. And that is what we expect to happen.
Cleaning is said to be progressing at a fast pace in the communities in the red zone north of Rabaca as the Buildings, Roads and General Services Authority, BRAGZA, continues to clear the main roads leading up to as far as Owia in preparation for the return of residents who were told they can go back to their homes by Monday, August 23rd. Today, the BRAGZA teams completed cleaning as far as Point Village, the community just before Owia, which is the second to last community on the windward side of the red zone. Many residents have also cleaned their homes and immediate surroundings and are excited to return home in full.
I came up this morning. I'm not living here as yet. My house, you look, you're seeing my house to the top there. You want to the high roof, the upstairs, there's where I'm living. A few sheets of galvanizer damaged. Right? I don't know if it's by the soufre or the hurricane that recently passed. But it's mostly the soufre because the whole porch, the galvanizer, rotten. Want to be replaced. I feel that I will be more happier at home,
Current already, as you can see, but the wire, the building captain came to put back the wire on the board. So just this alone is a dangerous spot for my kids in the yard. So I have to keep my eyes on them 24/7.
Because the road, as you see, it ain't really clean up as yet, and we ain't getting water, and we need water and little food.
And electricity, what about that?
Well, it's have electricity, but a lot of the houses fail, so they didn't have current, so they have to go all over again, wire over, to get back the current.
There were others who returned home before the all clear was given, and they have already readapted to life in the red zone.
Yes, every time the rain falls, when the break drop out, they just drop out through the ash. So every time the rain falls, the water coming in. So we have to map. I forget a bucket this morning, I'm suck out, get this a sponge and suck it up. But I come home. I prefer for the home more than the way I am, because I don't get good treatment.
We come back about 3 weeks ago. But me used to go and come, but me come back in full now. Yeah. I'm glad to be home, coming like this camp thing. The volcano ash, rotting in the galvanizer them. And only a couple of months them start have to change them galvanizer.
Otherwise, they give us some light to put in the sun, and used to use them and get water from the river. And everything was good with me. And I came home, and so afterward, my husband was here. Until when the other daughter for me come up too. So we was happy. And all also, water in there so good and the light just come, but we still happy. Because I love home here.
We used to make money by cassava and everything wash away. He last the Thursday, when he suffered, we've been a plant back cassava go mountain. And plus another Friday, we was going back one more piece. Everything wash and nothing ended up there. That we used to make our money from.
Yeah, a place to call Kramaku, out there about 2 miles. Right? I used to miss that a lot. Yeah. Because I don't like to sit down home. I like walk and, doing some farming. Yeah.
As the Medical Cannabis Authority, the MCA, continues to make strides in developing the local medical cannabis industry, Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Dr. Gerald Thompson, told SVG-TV News that they have been able to establish relationships with one of the largest banks in Canada, thereby enabling the flow of money within the industry from Canada to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and vice versa.
Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been able to set up relations with one of the major banks in Canada, which would facilitate the flow and the transfer of monies from any other part of the world, maybe other than the United States, to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and from St. Vincent outwards. This is a critical part of an industry to be able to facilitate legal banking.
Dr. Thompson noted, that federal laws in the United States have restricted the establishment of the same type of banking relationships between SVG and the USA for the medical cannabis industry. However, a legal solution has been developed to allow US-based companies the opportunity to establish relationships in SVG with special permissions through a series of protocols. Meanwhile, Dr. Thompson also used the opportunity to speak on the procedures involved in the exportation of the medical cannabis and its byproducts from SVG to other countries. He noted that special licenses issued by the Medical Cannabis Authority in both the export and importing country are at the basis of the exportation of cannabis products.
And having that is critical. Anytime we're looking to export, let's say, to a country like in Europe, we also have to inform the International Narcotics Control Board. We can't just export just like that. We have to inform them that a company in St. Vincent is looking to import to another company in another country that has a license to be able to receive the cannabis product in that country. And we're satisfied that those arrangements are being made, and we have a close connection with the International Narcotic Control Board, and we know how to go through the process. And we're looking forward that as different entities come up to the plate to start to conduct export, that we would have everything in place, such as the lab testing, plus the mechanism by which they can go through the export, and that they have given us proof that there is a company in another country that's willing to receive, and on that basis we will inform the International Narcotic Control Board in Geneva, and so get the stamp of approval so that export can be conducted.
The MCA CEO said with the establishment of the Analytical Service Lab at Rivulet, SVG is now able to prove the quality of the products it exports through a certificate of analysis that serves as a passport for export, eradicating the previous technical barrier.
Countries, they want the actual flower buds so that they could do their own final processing, whereas other countries, they want the finished product in the form of either oil in large quantities or in the final product, such as in the small products that consumers will use straight away. And here in St. Vincent, they will not only be producing flower buds that has been tested, and so they will also be producing the oil that has been squeezed and processed from the flower buds, and thirdly, the final end stage products that have been packaged and labeled and really presented in a particular fashion that will be appealing to any customer anywhere in the world.
On the topic of legalizing marijuana for recreational purposes, Dr. Thompson said due to international regulations and geopolitical issues, cannabis remains stringently prohibited, which makes it difficult to be legalized for recreational use. He said that in the present form, SVG maintains its compliance with international regulations and keeps its ability to export.
If we were to go with the bold and do recreational, we would then lose probably our ability to export. So we have to choose, do we want to export or do we just want to have things recreational? And our view is that we can still allow, through tolerance, a certain amount of leeway in which persons are able to utilize and it not being dubbed as being illegal and it being decriminalized. But at the same time, we haven't gone the direction of just totally freeing it up by making it recreational. If we were to do that, it may be a good day for some information, but we would then have serious problems being able to export, because we would now be in violation of this single convention and international treaty.
Police here are investigating the circumstances surrounding the shooting death of Edward Samuel, a 60-year-old resident of Brighton. According to investigations, some unknown person or persons armed with a gun shot Samuel multiple times about the body. He succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at the scene by the district medical officer. The incident occurred at Brighton at about 11:40 p.m. last night. A post-mortem examination is expected to be conducted on the body to ascertain the exact cause of death. Samuel's death marks the 26th homicide for the year 2021. Persons with any information pertaining to this investigation are asked to contact the Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of crimes at 456-1339 or the officer in charge of the South Central Division at 458-4200 or any police station or police officer they're comfortable with. All information, the police say, will be treated confidentially, and investigations into the incident are ongoing. The general public is being advised that no tethering of any animals on the tarmac and surrounding areas of the E.T. Joshua Center will be allowed from 5 p.m. on Sunday, August 22nd. Police say failure to comply with this order may result in the animals being dealt with in the most serious way under the Stock Trespass Act, Chapter 70 of the revised edition of the Laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines 2009. According to the police, this act, among other things, gives authority to destroy animals causing damage to property.